Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans, and continuing again on the theme of the farms. And there is a huge shortage of food impending right around the world, and I'll give you the facts in a second, and I'll attach a couple of images to this intro where you can actually see for yourself what's happening. And just like with South Africa, where the mainstream media are looking the other way, exactly the same is happening with this particular story about the huge food shortages that are coming everywhere around the world. And this is the worst possible time to get the farmers, the white farmers, to leave their farms, either by the banks foreclosing on them or by the corrupt ANC government expropriating land. This is the worst possible time in history. And I will read to you the article, and I have to thank Rick for drawing this to my attention. Okay. A gravely worded new Ministry of Emergency Situation, or EMERCOM, report circulating in the Kremlin today warns that Russia's greatest in history grain harvest, that's now feeding half of the world, will not be able to overcome the catastrophe now occurring in the United States that has turned its vital to the planet Midwest heartland agricultural region into an apocalyptic wasteland, where today it sees a never experienced before in modern history over 1 million of its growing acres under floodwaters, over 1 million of its spring cattle calves now dead, over 200 million of its citizens totally oblivious to what is happening, and whose thousands of farms already destroyed are set to be joined by tens of thousands more, as the US government scientists have not warned that this beyond historic flooding will continue into May. It's just not good, guys. According to this report, the United States is a bifurcated, divided into two parts situation, or nation rather, whose majority of citizens live in what is commonly known as the American heartland. That no part of touches an ocean, but who are ruled over by a coastal elite class, also known as the liberal elite, whose main citadels of power are located in the east and west ocean coasts of their country. In decades past, this report explains the effects of the bifurcation of the United States were able to be kept at a minimum due to their nation's robust local and conservative press industry, which enabled the citizens of the American heartland to be protected from the worst excesses of the mainly propagandist, radical leftist coastal elite press establishment, but whose protections are now nearly totally gone, as the US moves towards a post-newspaper world that even the Washington Post warns is a once unimaginable scenario that has lately become grimly conceivable. And the article goes to say that now only a very few stories in local papers, the legacy media, and that includes like SABC TV, are not covering the real stories anymore. They're covering basically what the publisher or the elite want them to cover. And this global situation when it comes to this impending food shortage is one of the issues that they're not covering. With nearly all the news reported in the United States now coming from the coastal elite class, this report continues, instead of having truth told to them, the peoples living in the American heartland have been saturated with non-stop radical leftist propaganda from so-called journalists, virtually none of whom have ventured in their lives from their east and west coastal citadels of power, and is why none of them were able to predict the election of President Donald Trump. Upon the election of President Trump, therefore, this report notes that two of the most powerful coastal elite news publishers retaliated by changing their mottos, with the New York Times changing theirs to "The truth is more important now than ever," and the Washington Post changing theirs to "Democracy dies in the darkness," after which saw both of them leading the radical leftist mainstream media charge to try and throw Trump from power by doing everything in their power to hide the truth in darkness and destroy democracy. Now, those two organizations, the New York Times and the Washington Post, are just fake news. You know, it's just bullshit. And of course, there are a lot of other American media that are just bullshit as well. But getting back to this issue, over the past fortnight, this report concludes the now near totally in control radical lefties coastal elite media establishment in the US has consumed itself in an orgy of hate-fueled hysteria due to President Trump having been exonerated from the lies they made up and told against him, but have shamefully done so at the expense of their failing to warn the American people of one of the greatest natural disasters their nation has ever seen, that if warned about would enable these people to protect themselves against a soon-coming catastrophic rise in food prices. Get that? Catastrophic rise in food prices. And that's obviously going to impact food prices in South Africa. More particularly because this apocalyptic catastrophe is only getting worse, and those most affected victims of it will be those who actually believed these radical leftist monsters were telling the truth in the first place, and for their blind ignorance and trust will undoubtedly see them collapsing into tears, fears, and denial, like they did the night Trump was elected. Okay, now I just want to say in summary that, as I said before reading this article, there's going to be a huge food shortage coming very shortly. And it's going to have a huge impact on a large part of the South African population. Just be aware that it's going to come. Please prep, get yourself covered. I'm going to attach to this two images that are carried in this article. One talking about the flooding issue that's happening in the US. It's a huge, huge issue. And the second one, which is basically outing all the fake news in America. All right, guys, please have a great evening and take care. Bye for now.